What is happening? NJ Gaming Dude here, and I've been going down a list of some of the really old booster packs of Yu-Gi-Oh! And just kind of picking out 5 of the most impactful cards in sort of each pack as I've been going along, and just kind of making videos talking about them. And now I've come up to the third pack, which is called Spell Ruler, and it introduced a lot to the game, whether it be Toon Monsters. There was a lot that was introduced to the game, and the biggest problem I had with making this video about 5 specific cards is that this pack released the most broken cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! At least the most number of singular broken cards. So I'm going to go through them in terms of like 5 cards, but the 5th one is going to, rather than be a single card, it is going to be a category of card. Actually no, I've got 6 here, not 5, never mind. I've got 6 cards here because I feel like I need to talk about all of these to some extent. Actually, you know what? I could probably get away with... maybe that might count. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'll start off with the forbidden cards. So that is the category that I'm talking about. So essentially, I have here... I'm going to go through all of them at once, but stick with me. Snatch Deal is a equipped spell card. Equipped only to a monster your opponent controls. Take control of the equipped monster, and during each of your opponent's standby phases, they gain 1,000 life points. I don't need to tell you how or why that's broken. But yeah, what is there to say about Snatch Deal? You take your opponent's monster that they've worked hard to get out onto the field, and then you just take it and then use it for yourself. Easy, you know, like that's easy plays right there from anything I could tell you. What makes the whole thing even better is that we got Painful Choice from this. So, Painful Choice is a normal spell card. Select 5 cards from your deck and reveal them to your opponent. Your opponent selects one and you send the rest to the graveyard. So the one that they pick goes into your hand. And the thing about Painful Choice is that what makes this incredibly broken is that you could pick 5 cards from your deck that are all really good in your graveyard, and whatever they pick might be a garnet in your hand, but you've got a +4 in the graveyard. Looking at all graveyard effects at this point, Painful Choice is one of those cards that will never be unbanned, at least from what I can tell in terms of like how it's handled. If it was like pick the top 5 cards of your deck, that could have probably worked, but even then 5 cards is still way too much to pick from your deck. The next forbidden card on the list, or in the category of forbidden cards, is Confiscation. Pay 1,000 life points, look at your opponent's hand, select 1 card and discard it. The information you get from your opponent's hand, absolutely priceless, absolutely legendary stuff. And the next one on the list, Delinquent Duo. Pay 1,000 life points, your opponent can discard 1 random card, and if they have any other cards in their hand, they discard 1 more card of their choice. Goddamn, getting rid of cards in people's hands, looking at their hands, getting effects, getting out a lot of good graveyard effects with Painful Choice, Snatch Deal. I'm not even done yet with the incredibly highly sought after cards. The Forceful Sentry, look at your opponent's hand, select 1 card among them and return it to his or her deck. Exactly like Confiscation, except it bounces a card rather than sends it to the graveyard. So it's instead of a discard, it's a bounce. So bouncing is when you send cards from the field to either your deck. I think to your hand it should be something different. No, hand is bounce, deck is something different. And then finally we have Giant Trunade, or as it says here, Hurricane. Why does it say Hurricane? Return all spell and trap cards from the field to the hand. These are all the forbidden cards that were introduced, and well, forbidden still to this day, I should say, and have been forbidden for a long ass amount of time, and many of which will likely never be unbanned. Insane to think about, but that's literally like the first spot on my list, is all of these cards. It really does make you wonder, like, when they came up with the cards for this pack, They intended the cards to be stronger, I imagine, but did they really expect it to be as strong as what they actually then became? Who knows? Who knows? All I can really say is that so far, of the 3 packs I've looked at, Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, Metal Raiders. But this one right here, Spell Ruler, has had the most amount of broken cards so far. Without a doubt. But yeah, I guess sort of moving on from those incredibly broken cards that are still banned to this day, being a singular category on their own, I've got the title monster Relinquished. And Relinquished is on this list of most notable cards in Spell Ruler, now kind of being its own separate thing rather than, you know, all of those banned cards being in sort of one spot by itself. It would be unfair to only put banned cards on here, which is kind of what made it very difficult for me to pick. But with Relinquished, on the other hand, it's a very notable card because it was used a lot in Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially in the competitive scene, because you could literally steal one of your opponent's monsters. As long as you had the spell, as long as you had the ritual spell to summon Relinquished, and you had Relinquished in your hand, that's all you needed, because you could have any monster used as tribute to summoning Relinquished. And on top of that, it has a great effect. So, in short, Relinquished is a level 1 dark spellcaster ritual effect monster. You can ritual summon this card with Black Illusion Ritual. Once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls, equip that target to this card, maximum 1 of course. This card's attack and defense becomes equal to that equipped monster. If this card were to be destroyed by battle, destroy the equipped monster instead. While equipped with that monster, any battle damage you take from battles involving this card inflicts equal effect damage to your opponent. So yeah, your opponent takes battle damage. Should Relinquish take any damage, it steals one of your opponent's monsters and turns its attack and defense to its attack and defense, and it has inherent protection. Protection was definitely not something that was very sort of notable back in the day, but Relinquish was definitely one of those heavy cases of a card that was heavily used and was banned for quite some time as well. So it's interesting to see how it's used in Duelist Kingdom with Pegasus, and now we kind of have the card with us. And it does kind of, to some extent, does see some notable plays here and there, but hasn't really been used all that much as of recently. And then of course, if you used polymerization with Thousand Eyes Idol, it would create Thousand Eyes Restrict, which is a fusion monster. But yeah, the more you know, the more you know. Relinquish came out in this pack. Next one I have on the list is Mystic Tomato. Now, Mystic Tomato and Giant Rat could both be on here. Giant Rat for Earth monsters, Mystic Tomato for Dark monsters. So, Mystic Tomato is a dark level 4 plant effect monster. When this card is destroyed by battle and sits to the graveyard, you can special summon one dark monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck in face-up attack position. In the case of Giant Rat, it's a level 4 Earth monster, Earth Beast effect monster. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Earth monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck in attack position. And these were used to bring out a lot of different types of monsters. It was, you know, the floating effects weren't that common. And what makes it even better is that when your opponent finished attacking, you know, if it was your first turn, you put out a Giant Rat, set it down in defense position. You set a Giant Rat, your opponent summons one monster during their first turn, they attack your Giant Rat floats into a completely different monster, and now you've got another monster you can use to do tribute summoning, to do some effects stuff with. You know, you could really start, you know, comboing off of it by, you know, doing, you know, triggering a couple of effects. So that is something worth mentioning. So I'm putting both Mystic Tomato and Giant Rat sort of in the same spot. So the forbidden cards were one spot, Relinquished, then I have Mystic Tomato and Giant Rat, so that's 3 items on the list. So The next one I have on my list of most notable cards is Megamorph. Now, Megamorph was previously banned because it triggered a lot of a lot of OTKs. Pretty much, as long as you're so Megamorph is an equipped spell card. While your life points are lower than your opponent, the equipped monster's attack becomes double its original attack. While your life points are higher, the equipped monster's attack becomes half the original attack. So if you're able to get out a strong monster, and you're able to deal damage to your own life points in some way due to it being a cost for whatever reason, you could absolutely make use of Megamorph and double the attack of powerful monsters that you're able to cheat out from the extra deck. Though back in the day it was known as the fusion deck before we got synchro monsters, and then at that point it was referred to as the extra deck. But yeah, definitely, like, these cards are a product of their time, and I think Megamorph used to be is still a product of its time, but is now no longer, again, compared to stuff like Snatch, Painful Choice, Confiscation, Forceful, Sentry. They're all fairly broken. Megamorph wasn't necessarily broken, it was just nobody was able to do much about it, but after being banned, Power Crypt to hell and back, it's now no longer considered to be as bad as what it used to be. The final card on the list, though, is Cyberjar. So Cyberjar is a dark attribute level 3 rock effect monster, and it has the flip effect. Destroy all monsters on the field, then both players reveal the top 5 cards from their deck, then special summon all revealed level 4 or lower monsters in attack position or face down defense position. Also, any remaining cards to their hand. Also add any remaining cards to their hand. If either player has less than 5 cards in their deck, reveal as many as possible. So, Cyberjar, another card banned for the longest time, and I don't think it is banned anymore. I think it's just limited. Yeah, it's limited in TCG. That's the one we're looking at, which is the advanced format. I still don't know why they call it the advanced format, but maybe someone could actually mention that in the comments below. Cyberjar is a fun was an easy way of being able to deck out your opponents. I don't remember why it was banned, but these jar cards have been finding themselves on the banned list quite often. But it is definitely a notable card for how long it was on the banned list for, and the fact that it's still banned in the OCG, but is legal in the TCG, albeit at 1 copy. But I think it was usually because it's easy to deck out your opponent if you've got multiple Cyberjars. Also, flip effects were actually looked at very differently back in the day, whereby if you attacked a monster that had a flip effect, the effect would activate before the damage step, but after the attack was announced. So after the card is flipped face up, that's when its effect activates, and then damage step happens, monster gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard. So effect resolves after the flip happens. So after the monster is flipped from face down defense to face up defense, which is an interesting thing to know, and why Cyberjar was kind of broken back in the day, just as much as something like Man-Eater Bug. But yeah, those are like I can't even call them the 5 most notable cards. These are the most notable cards from the pack. I tried to keep it to 5, I really did, but it's very, very hard when you think about just how many of the most broken cards ever released in any of these packs. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.